The very first act has a nice title, the Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Act 2020. Promotion is something very positive. Facilitation is something that the farmers would very much like. What is the content is something that we need to look at. The other farmers bill is the Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Service Act 2020. Empowerment, we talk about women's empowerment, children's empowerment, youth empowerment, citizens empowerment, farmers empowerment. Sounds very good. What does it actually do? That is something that we need to look at. And something that comes a little bit later, the farm service part of it in that act, what it means and how it works, is something that we will need to look at in detail. The third, of course, is a very straightforward amendment. You had the Essential Commodities Act 1955, under which you have the Fertilizer Control Order, which controls the distribution, the production, sale, and pricing of fertilizers. You have the Fruit Products Order, which controls the quality of food and all these things, which now come under the Food Safety and Security Authority of India, the FSSAI. It has implications also on the maximum retail price, especially of the packaged commodities. And more of the Kirana shops are going to change into supermarkets or departmental stores, which are going to have more and more of packaged commodities, including your rice, including your dal, including your wheat. And that is where things are changing. So first we'll go in the order of what the acts are, the two Farmers Acts, and what they do. The Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Act 2020 has as its objective the creation of an ecosystem where the farmers and traders enjoy the freedom of choice. Everyone likes this, beautiful, freedom of choice. And the freedom of choice is relating to the sale and purchase of farmers' produce, not the traders' produce, only the farmers' produce, which facilitates remunerative prices through competitive alternate channels. Competitive alternate channels sounds very nice, but it means that you are taking the market out of the mandi, the market yard, and out of the market subyards. Sounds limited to farmers, wo bechare, dehati, okay, poor fellows, we have pity on them, but there is nothing we can do about it. But that's not the case. The definition of farmer and the definition of a person here changes. A person means an individual, a partnership firm, a company, a limited liability private company or LLP, a cooperative society also is a person, a society, or beautifully any other association. So you have some which have been defined, and any other association can be even a husband and wife, two of them together with a registered marriage also could become a person for the purpose of these things. Now, agriculture being a state subject, the central government and the parliament really had no business in passing these particular bills. But now that it has, and they are law, the state government can also legislate on these particular aspects, being an agriculture thing. But there is a catch. Once the state legislature passes this and passes it on to the governor is not empowered to give assent to it. It has to be referred to the President of India because there is a central act on those very same things. So everything has to go to Sri Ramnath Kovind. And for all practical purposes, for the states who are trying to get their federal rights from the central government, this may just have gone to the wind. And that is the issue that the states will have to face. Very importantly, if there is a dispute between the farmer and the trader who's going to come into agreement with him, and also the sponsor, and the sponsor is any person or person meaning here partnership, entity, anything, any association, company, farmers producer company, anything, that person only needs to have a PAN card. No other restrictions are there on the sponsor for this particular trade. And if there is an issue, then it will have to go to a board of conciliation. Someone like your marriage counselor who tries to make peace between the husband and wife and make them live together a little bit longer. But this board of conciliation will consist of a person appointed by the deputy collector. The sub-divisional magistrate will appoint this person and he will be an officer under him. So maybe a tehsildar or maybe somebody else, an additional collector or anybody can be put over there. Someone, sorry, not additional collector, another deputy collector, additional deputy collector, someone can be put who is under this deputy collector, and he is to chair this particular conciliation board. In that, there will be 2 minimum or maximum 4 people appointed, also at the pleasure of the deputy collector. It says, as he deems fit. There is no criteria of how they should be selected. He is at liberty subjectively to decide who these 2 to 4 people will be there. So maximum 5 number of persons in this conciliation board are at the pleasure of the deputy collector. Each of these 2 parties to the dispute, the vendor and the buyer, can nominate 1 person or 2 persons each. They have to be equal. If the farmer appoints 2, then the other side can appoint 2. If the farmer appoints 3, the other side appoints 3. So there's a balance there. And the casting vote of 3 to 5 is with the government. Now, how this conciliation will actually work is left to the imagination of people. I can only quote the example which has happened here in Goa, which I mentioned earlier, is about the Agricultural Tenancy Act 1972. In 2022, it will complete 50 years, and the disputants to the cases can celebrate their golden jubilee without a resolution of their issue. So that is where we stand. And we need to see how these resolutions will go. And if it's not resolved, then the deputy collector will have the final say. He is almost like the first appeal. He is the decision maker. And if there is a grievance after that, then the redressal is with the district collector. Now, when these resolutions will come through, how it will help the farmer is something that we need to see. So if you look at the other bill, the Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Service Act 2020. This also is proposed by the Minister of Agriculture, Narendra Singh Tomar, and this is the Bill 112. So this aims to give you a national framework in which to operate, in which to do business. Business firms can be there, exporters, wholesalers, processors. And here, what was defined earlier as the person gets defined as the farmer. So a farmer is an individual or a farmer producer organization, and it says the farmer producer organization is further redefined here to say an association by any name under any law. So it could be a cooperative, it could be under Societies Act, it could be partnership, it could be under anything. So moment farmers get together under any rule in the state or in the center, they become a farmer. And here is where the Israeli technology is introduced of predetermined quality. Those who have grown strawberries in Pune know this. The benchmark was placed that you will produce strawberries of 25 grams each. 100-gram pack would have 4 strawberries. Farmers like to produce nice big strawberries. They found that they were 30, 35, 40 grams each. And the companies found that the strawberries in Ethiopia were cheaper than these strawberries which were produced in India. So the predetermined size was 25 grams. They were under no compulsion to buy it because it did not meet the predetermined standard. Imagine that happening for potatoes and onions, or dal or rice, that you must have so many grains per kilo. What does the farmer do? Is he doing an experiment to find out whether he can produce so many grains per kilo of rice, or this will be the grain weight, or that will be the weight of the onion or potato? This will be the quality. It will be free from this particular pest or that particular insect or that particular fungus. Who is to determine this? So here is again the dispute redressal becomes important, and again it goes to the same process of deputy collector and collector. So that's where you stand, and the rules cannot be made by the state. The rules will be made by the central government. And the state government can only make rules regarding who will be the registering authority, what will be the registration procedures, and the mode of payment, whether you pay cash or you do Paytm or what you do. Only that the state government can do. The Essential Commodities Act, I thought, was limited to cereals, pulses, oilseeds, onion, and potato. But I discovered on my second reading of that act that it says including cereals, pulses, oilseeds, onions, and potatoes. It doesn't exclude anything. Tomorrow, any farmer's produce or any commodity can be notified by the state as not coming under Essential Commodities Act. Hopefully, it will be limited to agriculture produce. It could also include petrol and diesel and all other things, because the amendment says including these things, doesn't exclude anything which is there in the Essential Commodities Act 1955. So it may effectively be like a tone condom. The Essential Commodities Act today is punctured. You don't know what else will go out of it, because it says including these items, not excluding anything. And the bill has been proposed by Sri Ramvilas Paswan, the Minister for Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution, not by Narendra Singh Tomar, the Minister for Agriculture and Farmers' Welfare. So this is very clearly a consumer bill. It's not a farmer's bill, as the newspapers try to tell us. And that is where we need to look at it a little bit more carefully. So trade is one thing. There are no state barriers. The state cannot limit the trade. The state cannot limit the stockpiling. So the person who would have been called a hoarder yesterday, today becomes someone who is only speculating. Yesterday's criminal is today's decent gentleman businessman. And your place of trade can be somebody else's godown, a silo, a cold storage, a warehouse. Anywhere is a place of trade. Only limitation is that it should not be connected to the mandi. Anything that is under agriculture produce committee or produce board, that is excluded. Other than that, everything else is included. So we have a whole set of issues that need to be looked at from the farmer's perspective and also from the consumer's perspective, which we have been avoiding looking at. Possibly Kavita Karungati is the first person who's pointed out the implications of what can happen if someone says, I got an export order of 1 lakh tons of onions and stockpiles it. What yesterday was called hoarding, you could be penalized, becomes totally a decent operation. And in this context, I would like to go to the background in which I work, basically organic farming. And organic farming, there are some principles. One is that it should be fair to all, to the farmer, to the trader, to the consumer. And the second aspect is that it should be, as far as possible, local. So that is something that I work with, that the local production should go up so that you can be sustainable. And I think that is the only way we can go about if this particular Essential Commodities Amendment Act remains. Because getting things across the border, getting things from other countries and leaving things to rot here because they don't meet the predetermined quality standards is going to leave the farmer in a lurch and is going to leave the consumer in a lurch.